open the meeting. We'll call the meeting to order and do the flag salute. Don't have anybody, so I guess I get to do it. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I forgot to say stand and put your hand over your head. Jeez. That little girl last time was, we have a student from do it. We had a little girl that was just so enthused and so happy to do it last time. It was fun. So I should have had you guys do it. So can I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
One absent, Joe Chimino on his way. So no public comment, so we'll go to board services. So welcome, Steve and Dave. Good to see you again. And we'll turn it over to you. You sent me an outline, so I would just, you can,
I have copies.
you want to go ahead and hand those
I have one date that's changed.
Pardon me?
I have one date that's changed on that.
from there.
Yeah, from
You-
what I sent you.
Okay, so let's use your copy.
It was on a Wednesday and it should have been a Tuesday because I know.
Okay, so do you want to hand those
I'll
out?
do that in just now.
Okay,
So anyway, here we are again, and looking forward to a successful superintendent search. We're a couple months earlier, or a number of months earlier than we were last year, so we'll be right at the beginning of the search window, which will be helpful. I know I've heard from some people who are interested in this position. I think Dave has reached out to some people also. So hopefully this will end up in a real positive way. The last time ended up in a positive way as far as I believe you had a great candidate. And I talked to her in August and just wanted to get a sense of, is there something that we could have done better, that you could have done better, that there was a concern about the community or the school district, and she assured me that it was all personal, her own personal family situation, and she sounded very credible. She was very positive about the extensions, or your reception to what she wanted in her contract. She thought it was very fair. She was very positive about all of you, very positive about you.
Could I ask you to speak into the microphone?
sorry.
That's okay, I'm having trouble hearing.
Okay.
you a bit.
Is it on?
There you
Is that
go.
how- no.
That's better, thank
Okay.
you.
She was very positive about Lef, who had a number of conversations with her and felt you were very generous and very positive about her. And so, I guess those things happened. It's never happened to us before. And it's unfortunate. So we're committed to doing this again and finding some additional top-rate candidates. So what I'd like to, I just wanted to mention.
Just a comment going back on that type of thing. We all kind of showed our cards when we were trying to hire a superintendent, and I don't feel that a couple of the finalists were, even though another finalist was looking at another job, and I don't know if it's part of the game, they don't open up, but I sure want a candidate coming in next time to be honest and upfront with us. I like that better than holding their card. I mean, I don't think our candidate, there was something about a family thing that was holding her back. And it would have been nice if, would have made that decision before we got to where we were, type of thing. Yeah, obviously for you too, type of thing. Yeah, you've had the same feeling. So going forward, I really want candidates to be open and honest and having their mind made up prior to the interview. So when we screen and stuff like that, I don't know if that's a question we're gonna ask them or whatever, but if they're, if they're looking at 5 superintendent positions, I probably don't want them. I mean, that's my personal thing. I want somebody that wants to come to this district and go forward. So that's just my 2 cents. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything to that, or.
Well, part of my frustration grew that she was asked multiple times by multiple people at that last interview, are you sure you're ready to move? And isn't it going to be hard to leave? And she was absolutely adamant that nope, she was ready to go. So I don't know what you do. I mean, you do the best you can, and if someone changes their mind, it's a big life-altering change to leave a place you've been at for over a decade and go and actually move your home and leaving your family, your parents.
Yep, we always ask the candidates when we get down to the end, after the first round of interviews, if you were offered the job, would you accept it? Which we did in this case. And I talked to her the Saturday before the board meeting. I was flying out. We were going on an extended vacation in Europe, and talked to her, and I was calling Leff a couple times and getting back to her. And she was coming up here that weekend, there seemed to be no hesitation. So whatever happened with her family situation, it happens. People ought to know that, though, before they even apply, and especially if you're moving considerably miles away from where your family is. You'd think they would clarify that. So
I look at it as a blessing.
it's as what?
As a blessing, because there was an opportunity over several weeks for her to change her mind, to have done it the morning that she was supposed to be announced here. That's not, we don't need somebody like that in this district. We need someone who's
Right.
got
And-
their mind made up about what they're going to do.
And I
Better
don't,
that morning than 2 months after that, though,
I don't- I don't want to say that she wasn't being honest with you, because you said you felt like she was being truthful about it. But I think she was concealing a hesitancy because of the reasons we discussed about she was there so long, because it was there. I mean, it wasn't something that popped up in her all of a sudden. It was a worry that she had, and she was concealing it from us. And I know you can't, anticipate every type of thing a candidate is going to do, but building on what Leff said, is there any way we can fish out whether there's something that they're concealing from us that might undercut the whole process again?
Lie detector test,
Yeah, right.
the polygraph.
I don't think
No.
there's anything you can do. I
I'm
mean,
not
you
sure
take
how you do
someone
it.
at their
It's
word.
very unusual. Now, after an interview, in interviews, it should be a two-way thing. There may be a candidate who says, I don't want to work for them,
Right.
and that's understandable. Just as you would say, I don't want that candidate. And Chris, it may have been a blessing, because let's say 6 or 7 or 8 months later, your candidate would have been, or your new superintendent would have been very unhappy, family situation, whatever it is. And I think it was better that way than had she
Yeah.
been here for a half a year or a year or whatever.
Well, just to be politically incorrect, I don't want to be blindsided again. I mean, I don't anticipate that happening, but anything we can do to, improve the interview process so we're not blindsided again. If we get blindsided twice, it's going to be really bad.
I think we share in that responsibility. We'll do all we can to make sure that doesn't happen a second time.
Yeah,
Again,
and I'm not saying you did anything wrong or made a mistake. I think I'm talking about her behavior, which it would have been impossible for us to dig it out
Well,
if
I
she
think
was.
as I told you that night, when I was abandoned by Steve and was out there all alone.
it probably wouldn't have
with
happened had
slings
I
and
been here.
arrows, I
And you
told
got to
her,
call me the
as
next
you
morning.
suggested, that probably better than to be unhappy to make the decision, but your timing professionally is wretched. I mean, this is just horrible. There's really no excuse for that.
Yeah, that's how
And I haven't spoken to her again because I don't think I could have a decent conversation. Steve has done that several times. Ultimately, I'd like to follow up with her and see if there wasn't something more. I still think there may be a little piece of a superintendent who's been ill and privately announcing that he's leaving after this year and that she would be the heir apparent. I don't know that that's true, but she hasn't acknowledged it, so I don't know. We'll see.
And part of me said, you know, as I look at people's motives, was she doing this as a leverage thing
Yeah.
to wake, you know, valuable employee, she would have done a great job here, would have been a great superintendent, but was it a leverage thing that people do to get their employer to wake up to see their value in
Leverage
loss?
could have been a good descriptor of what happened,
Right,
but I don't think it was Jody doing the leveraging.
okay,
And I don't think she was
right,
going down that road herself. She was not trying to leverage her district against Cotati Winter Park. I'm confident of that.
Right.
I think she was a very honest person with us. But, and you don't want to talk about it, but I think it was more her husband than it was Jody.
I'm convinced it was
That's-
too. His,
That's an impression.
and we never really found out until after the fact what he did when I talked to her that day, and then it just clicked to me, for him to move his business didn't make sense.
Anyway,
So what
And
do
you
we do
can't
going-
ask those questions in interview, like, what does, you know, that kind of stuff, but,
I think we could have done a little more. I mean,
right,
I don't want to take all the slings and arrows here, but
right.
I think we could have done a little more to.
Well, you pretty much have to take someone at their word, right? I mean, if they say, yes, I've thought about all this, I want to come here, it's a great place to work, and then all of a sudden, never mind, I don't think anybody could have anticipated that.
Right.
I think it speaks to her character and not yours.
What I was most interested in talking to her, knowing we were going to do this again, was there something in the district? Was there something with the board? There's something, or did somebody contact you, or is there something that gave you, you know, cold feet? And she, again, it was a family situation. If she were a really indecisive person or a duplicitous person, you would have thought that that would have come out in the people you talk to or the people we talk to. So it makes me feel that she was being sincere in her reason. It's unfortunate that she didn't clarify that with her family earlier on, but that's the situation. Again, very unusual, but it happened.
So what do we do going forward?
So what we want to do, number one, Tim sent me the copy of the Community Voice that had a really wonderful article that back in, I don't know.
June, it was the week after.
Yeah, for some reason it says September 26th. It was back in June. Oh, there it is, okay.
June 14th.
But this up here is, that's very interesting. June 14th. A terrific article, I'm sure you all read it, about you, about us, about the process. And it kind of blew me away because it was so darn positive about the process. And, a community newspaper or somebody could have run with it in a different direction. We posted this on our website because of people are going to be looking at this school district, looking at us, and reading this.
I don't know if I'd post it on your, because if they go back and they look at the other articles that are in there, the week before, there was ones calling our superintendent's carpetbagger, so I don't know that that would be the wisest thing to do.
Well, this is a good article. And I think it would tell candidates.
Who was
Something
writing,
positive.
calling our superintendent a carpetbagger?
That was Laney's article, the Friday before she denied the position.
What was it in regards to, just a general,
It was a history of all the superintendents.
oh,
Oh, okay.
I was the carpetbagger.
Yeah.
Because I came from Sanderfeld.
that was before you were even a blip on the horizon.
Leff and I talked a little bit.
So we want to get going on this again.
Okay,
And have a timeline and to share with you. Let me share one with me. Thank you.
and I've asked Mike to be part of this process,
Uh-huh.
unless he
Thank
decides
you.
to be an
Oh,
applicant.
can I have one
Care for
too?
him, but-
That's
I
all
wanna
right,
give one to Joe. No, he needs one. You missed.
that's all right.
Oh, Joe.
I gave one to Joe, so he needs one.
So, I want more, obviously Mike's got a few years of being a superintendent, so, in addition to the five of us and you two, I also want, to lean on Mike if we can for expertise or knowledge or things like that as we go through this process.
Okay.
So,
Well, I think you made
As-
some good decisions and came out
Right,
with leadership.
right,
and
but, you know,
direction.
in addition to that, we'll go out to our shareholders and stakeholders and, you know, and you know, go ahead and talk about that, so.
Okay, so here, this is the timeline. It's very similar to what we did last year. Dates are changed, and a little part of the process has changed. This first bullet is what we're doing tonight, and I'm going to ask you to review what you've already identified as your strengths and the needs and the characteristics that you want in your new superintendent. And then the next step is we're going to come to the district for 2 days with kind of an open invitation to people who want to come in and review the criteria that you established to see, is this still pertinent? And we'll gather that kind of information and also have something online so that people have a chance to participate. It's hard to anticipate if people will partake of that opportunity, because some will say, hey, we just did that, and things have changed or haven't changed or whatever. But we feel we ought to give people an opportunity to get their voice into the process.
Or if somebody did it last time and they want to step up and do it this time, that would be welcomed.
What was that? I'm sorry.
If somebody didn't get involved last time
Right,
and they wanted to get involved this time,
right.
I'm more than welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to give people an opportunity, and I think last time, you know, what you don't want to have is people at the end of the process say, well, I never had an opportunity to participate. And so we want to give people an opportunity, and you listened to their participation last time, and I think it was valuable.
Steve?
So what we would do is meet on the, here in the district, the 19th and the 20th. On the 20th, have a night meeting, and then, but also meet during the day and have opportunities for people to come in, maybe on the hour. And I'll talk to Mindy. She organized our meetings so well last time, and so we'll rely on her to.
Is that open
reach out.
to anyone in the community?
Pardon?
Is that open to
Yes,
anyone in the
abs-
community?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, last time you met with different
Yeah, we met
subgroups
with
to
different
kinda
groups
keep
and
it-
such, right.
Yeah.
And so this time, and again, it's hard to, we may have nobody show up, or we may have a lot of people showing up, but I think part of the reaction will be, well, we just did that, and there's a good we had an opportunity, and some people may want an opportunity again. And then come back to you in December the 10th, and at that time, we'll bring you the information that we've garnered on the 19th and 20th, and through a survey, and ask you to look at that, and then look at your list that I'll pass out in a minute, and see if there are any changes you want to make to that. On that meeting on the 10th, to also approve the brochure, the electronic brochure, and if there are any changes that you want to make. And I want to emphasize this is your process, so be sure if you're not comfortable with this, let us know, and we'll make changes now. But
You want to send that to us electronically again? So
I'll do that also.
Yeah.
You mean what I just handed out?
No, not that, the list of.
These lists. I will,
That stuff,
yeah.
so we can have that.
Yeah, and I'll, yeah,
So the meeting on December 10th that we're talking about, that's going to be a special meeting?
Yeah.
yes.
Should it be closed session? Should we have it in L1 like we did before?
No, it'll be an
It'll
open session. Uh-huh,
Thank you.
yeah.
The-
And,
we only go into close when we get the applications and we start reviewing
Right.
them.
and Mindy, if we could have it kind of in a workshop type arrangement,
Yes.
sit around the big
Yes.
table like we did last
I
time,
remember.
that would be great. Then on the 13th, January 13th, and it coincides with the publication of AXA's EdCal, which is the main way we advertise widely, other than reaching out to people. We'll begin the process of advertising and recruiting and give it a 6 weeks. We cut a little short last year because we were in April, I think, and May, and puts us right at the beginning of the process when most people are looking at that superintendency, or moving, or going for their first superintendency or a subsequent superintendency. I know last year, some people that I was aware of and Dave was aware of had already found jobs by the time we even started advertising. So this puts us right at the beginning of the process. 6 weeks, and then on the 21st of February would be the deadline. And then we will, again, send back to the district applications of all the candidates and ask you to review them, to come in and review. Jennifer, at the last year, asked that we would have enough copies so that I think you could make notes on the copies. We'd still ask you to leave all of that information here in the district. The confidentiality of this whole process is just critical. Critical that you don't lose candidates because people start feeling that their name is out there and that could harm them in their own district. So we want to assure people that it'll remain confidential, but we'll make copies for 5 sets that we'll give to Mindy and ask you to come in and review. In the district office, leave them here, don't take them home, as it might be tempting to do, but please leave them here. And then we'll come back to you after we've reviewed and made reference checks. And on the 3rd of March, ask you at that time, who are the candidates? Here are the candidates we're recommending. And you'll say to us, yeah, but why didn't you include so-and-so? And we'll tell you why. But ultimately, it's your decision who you want to interview. And that's the same process we used last spring. And at that same board meeting, we'll review questions to ask in the process for interviewing on the 7th, and then a second interview on the 9th, and then a site visitation in that first week in March. I know you don't have a calendar of meetings next year, but keep in mind that the appointment has to be at a regular scheduled meeting. So whether you have a meeting in late March or it'd probably be an early April meeting.
Tentative date would be March 19th, 2020, and then the tentative April date would be April 21st, 2020, of course, pending board approval at the December meeting.
Okay. Is it possible, I don't think we would be able to have it ready for that March meeting, but is it possible to have your regular scheduled meeting in April a little earlier? And that way, because again, we don't want to, if a person is a candidate elsewhere, have a choice to make. Is there,
Move it up to April 14th, is that?
What's that do? Is there an Easter break or?
No, the spring break is.
Or spring break.
Spring break is March 16th through the 20th.
Okay,
So our tentative board meeting would be March 10th. The next weekend is spring break, and then there's one more weekend in March, and then there's March 30th and 31st. And then right now tentatively, Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 is the 3rd Tuesday. If you want, we can move it up to the 14th and have it on the 2nd Tuesday.
How about the 7th?
pardon?
I mean, I'm going to just suggest that you might want to look at the 7th of April as your
7th.
April board meeting, because you will have had 2 weeks before you've identified who you think you want as your superintendent, because you would have done the validation visit, and you just
Leaking
want to
information.
strike all the items off.
yeah.
What about
There's a
moving
couple considerations. Number one, about being sure that that person is able to make a decision and realize that you're going to make a decision. There's also, I know it would never happen here in this school district or in this community, but sometimes people want to do damage, and they get to, by that time, people know who your candidate is. And you just want to lessen that opportunity for
So
people.
we
to-
can't move it up a week in March?
You'd have to do that when you set the calendar in December.
Push March back?
On March 3rd, we're going to have a special board meeting, and then the next would be March 10th would be our regular board meeting, and then the next week would be spring break.
I mean, the board always has the option to determine when they're going to have regular board meetings. And so you're going to, in December, you're going to adopt the board meetings for the following school year. You could conceivably, if you chose to, you could have 2 meetings in March. You could have one at the beginning of March and one on the 31st or whatever it is. I mean, that would be
Right,
your decision.
and that would be a
What-
perfect.
What's your preference for a date? Why don't we start there?
I think we said the 14th
No, go up to the 7th.
of
7th
April.
of April. So when would we be making an offer if we found a candidate?
Well, if you made the home visitation
Right.
on March the 12th or the 13th,
Right.
and then you say, hey, we found
So-
our candidate,
So background
and then
and
we
vetting of
we
the
have a couple weeks
candidates?
of contract negotiations.
Right. So
So-
why not the end of March? Why not March 31st?
Remember, spring break's in there too.
I know.
When is spring break?
The 16th through the 20th. of
So
March.
what's the next
But
weekend
that's,
after that?
I'm not
I
on
mean, the
spring
next
break,
Tuesday.
so, and I'm
Right.
probably,
The
well,
24th.
whoever the president is
17th to 24th.
is going to be doing that negotiations, most
Should we
likely.
do the 24th or the 31st of March?
Yeah, why don't we listen to what Mike said and schedule 2 meetings, and you can always cancel one.
Yep.
So the.
So we'll come forward and we'll propose for March, we'll propose 2 regular board meetings, one on the
The 10th,
10th and then one on the 31st.
and that's regular board, right? These are
Right.
both regular.
So
Okay.
from the site visit when, March when?
12th and 13th,
12th
or
and
12th or 13th.
12th to 13th. Yes, and that's, yeah, I think the sooner thereafter.
So if
And
we-
one thing we might do this time to, although it doesn't give all board members an opportunity, is just maybe 2 people go, and then you don't have to post where you're going.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Because everybody knew where.
Because
we were
then as soon
going.
as we, boom, they hit that, people in unions and other people are zooming in, and I'm getting calls, is it this person? I go, I'm not talking to you, go away, be realistic about this, type of thing. I
Yeah,
said,
that,
"Don't-"
that's
yeah.
your call. There is an advantage of all of you going. But if you have confidence in your fellow trustees, that's really your decision to make.
Right.
Yeah, and you're saying confidentiality is a priority.
But but when the 5 of us can be confidential, but as soon as you post that you're going to X,
Right.
Y, and Z,
Everyone
all knew
knows
what
where you're
was going
going.
everyone knows where you're
Right.
going, and then it's just like,
Realistically, though, you go and make your visitations, let's say on March the 12th. A union leader in that school district is going to call
a union leader here.
a union leader here and say, hey, you're going to get a great person, or the opposite.
Be careful.
So the word gets out very, very quickly.
The other point, though, too, is what is the time frame in the calendar we'd be looking to go visit their site?
Pardon?
Because what is the time period? It's in March, like the middle to the end of March, we'd go look at their site?
We're talking about March the 12th.
No,
Or
but I'm
13th.
saying because that, whatever district we're going to, they could also be on spring break.
Oh. When is Easter this year?
It's
Of course,
different-
that
it's
doesn't
gonna be different
mean
for
anything
every
anymore.
district
No,
in March.
Oh, spring
and
break,
April.
yeah.
yeah, that's
that's a
good
that's a
point.
consideration.
Maybe
Isn't that-
we need to ask all the candidates.
Yeah.
We'll just ask whoever we get finalists to cancel
Hey,
their spring break.
Why not
it's a good
do the
point.
2 dates in March, but do an early date in April
Yeah,
then
that's a good idea.
also? And do 2 dates in April, and then you can always cancel.
Because we might have to move.
It
Like,
might
that's a
be
good
April.
point. We might have to move
Yeah.
our
If it's a-
visitation if their area is shut
If it's a
down.
week later, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
10,
10,
March
31st, and then let's do the 7th as
and
well.
21st.
Yeah, I think so.
And then we can always
And
cancel. them
cancel,
at that,
yeah.
Right,
I think that's the safest way.
right.
So, on one of those dates, you'll appoint your new superintendent, and the goal is to have the new person in place on July 1st. Okay?
Correct.
Any other suggestions, or? Yeah. And what David is passing out now is, if you'll recall, after you hired us last year, you do a little brainstorming. You had a long list of strengths of the districts, critical issues and needs, and then desired characteristics. And then we went out and did the same thing with members of the community. You identified who you wanted us to meet with, and we met with those folks. And we also surveyed. You know, I don't think there's any use in reinventing the wheel, but some conditions may have changed. You have a new superintendent here since August sometime. Yeah.
August 20th, 19th.
So, a day that'll live in infamy, right? Since sometime in late August.
Right.
Things may have changed or may change, or there may be a different perspective. You may have a different perspective. Others may look at this in a different way or have some other ideas. So what we would do then is, when we come back to you in December, have you look at this list of, hey, that's just great. Or here's some good things that you heard from the community. Let's modify this in some way. Not asking you to do that now, but asking you to do that, and then we'll finalize the brochure.
Is programmatic a word?
Programmatic, huh?
I've never heard it used this way.
Which
Oh.
bullet is that?
Can I ask a question?
Fourth bullet at the top, strengths.
Jim?
I heard from somebody, of no idea if this is true, but that the superintendent pool is shrinking since the last time we did this in California.
Over the last 5 years, that's been each year a little more challenging.
Hmm.
I may have told you, because it just blows our mind, the first superintendency that I applied for, but I won't tell you what year, there were 135 applicants.
Wow.
You know, I don't know what your experience, Mike, was, but you're not anywhere close to my age, so.
No, but it was, I think, exceeding 50 or 60
Yeah.
easily, yeah.
That was typical
Yeah,
for
very.
many years.
Yeah.
We
It's a
think,
combination of assistant superintendents being relatively closer in terms of salaries and having so little or so much less of the political intrigue and all the stress and pressure that is associated with being a superintendent.
I'm not wanting to make that step.
Well, I think there's also, when the recession hit, then most districts gutted their central offices. And so there was a gut of people in the lead-up positions to become superintendent.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those positions got gutted.
right.
And so it's shifting back, but
it's a great job, but it's not a great job for everybody.
Yeah.
And people, some people look at it and they think, why in the world? I have a good job now. Do I want all of that pressure? And some people want the challenge. It's a great job. I know both Dave and I found it very worthwhile in the years that we were superintendent, but it's not for everybody. And I think it's become more pressure. Look at what's happened look what's happened in our society in the last number of
It's not
years.
a long-term job
Yeah, it isn't.
as it used to be.
Yeah.
Same with, like, chief of police, city managers, none of them are long-term anymore.
So if you're younger, and you have a family, you have to look at the security of your family, and there's all kinds of considerations.
It'll be interesting too, not eminent this year, but I mean, there's people talking about consolidations of districts. And when you have close to 40 districts in this county alone, will there be a move to consolidate? I know that's going to be really hard for the little small districts to get gobbled up, but as money gets tighter and tighter, amongst things, is that a movement that'll happen? Don't know.
I can only speak from working in Marin for almost 30 years, and there's 19 school districts in Marin, and the last consolidation was probably in the early 80s with Fairfax and Ross Valley, and they're still pissed about, ticked off about it.
That doesn't go over very well.
No.
No.
Okay.
Not at all. Well, they just, Marin County swallowed up a school in Petaluma as well, and that was not an easy task to do either.
Look at there've always been challenges, and when you're in the midst of it, you think this is the most challenging of all time. But look at the financial situation today. It's certainly not getting better. Look at school closures in many communities as the population declines in a lot of areas, and all of those pressures. And so some people say, hey, I have a good job where I am, either as a sitting superintendent or an assistant superintendent somewhere, and I think I'll just stay.
Well, building on that, because of the high cost of living in California. When you cast the net last time, was there a reason that we only got out-of-state applicants from, I think, southern Arizona? We got a couple. I can't remember any other states. I mean, is there, I know people might be reluctant to come here because the high cost of living, but is
It's-
there a way of casting the net?
There is, but it's
Nationally.
very tough to recruit people from outside California. California, the school funding in California is incredibly low compared to most every other state in the country. And yet our demands are enormous. And so it's not real attractive because of school funding. It's not attractive too because a lot of people can't afford to move to
Yeah, if you're
California.
living somewhere else and your house is 200,000 and you're gonna sell it for 200,000, you come
Yeah.
here,
Right.
and a comparable house easily could be 600,000 or more, or more type of thing. And, so our weather's great.
Yeah, the weather's great.
Our weather's.
And we've worked with a couple of school districts that provided housing for their superintendent, or given them a loan, or bought a house for them.
Or gave them a
It's-
stipend for a year for renting.
I beg your pardon?
something. Or gave them a stipend for a year.
Yeah. That causes some issues in a community
Right.
also.
We can look at options that would extend the pool through AASA, which is the American Association of School Administrators.
Okay, and then the other
Toss it
thing,
up.
is there a way to target Latinos? I know that we had a couple applicants who were really good and we considered.
I think we talked about that. One of the things we talked about was getting somebody who was fluent in Spanish.
Yeah,
And we had a big
Bilingual.
discussion about bilingual, why we weren't going to do that. Or why we weren't going to try to narrow it down
Right,
so
limit your
much.
pool.
We would have
Yeah.
a whole world of legal challenges if we did that
Yeah,
formally.
we
But in
can't.
terms of our own recruiting, we can certainly
Right.
look at that interest.
Yeah, and we encourage not to list that bilingual as a desirable
'Cause it
quality.
scares
Because there may
people
be some
away.
other people out there that have other very desirable qualities and say, hey, if that's what they're looking for, I obviously don't have that. And so you just limit your field.
right.
You did have some bilingual candidates. You interviewed one, I believe. One or,
Mhm.
I remember one of the 5 people you
Finalists,
interviewed
right,
was bilingual. Yeah,
okay.
but every other district is looking for bilingual administrators today, too. So it's a challenge. But again, we're in the early part of the recruiting season. I haven't, just by looking at EdCal in past several months, including an EdCal I got yesterday, there's not too many districts looking for superintendents this early. So you should be in pretty good shape.
Good.
We should be in good shape.
Is there any downside to that? Because would it make it difficult for some candidates to, commit that early in terms of their district politics and all that?
No, I think, if you go earlier than that, if you go in the fall or early winter, but by the time we get to the selection stage, and you're in March, you have a couple more, 3, 4 months left in the school year, you're okay. And that's the usual time that people
I think
are
if
out
you're a
there.
superintendent candidate looking for a superintendency, you know that you're gonna start looking in January.
Yeah. So it's the opportune time. We've had searches all year round, and some have been surprisingly successful even during the late summer, but this is the optimum time.
Good.
So any other questions or requests or reactions?
Hawaii, remember that.
What's that?
Hawaii
Yes.
for the site visit?
You just went.
Oh, that's right.
Oh.
But it'll be in a different situation this
The 2
time.
people just expanded to 5.
Right, yeah.
Well, sorry, I just have one more. I think I used too many questions, but when are these dates going to be made known to the community?
I'm going to work with Mindy as far as a press release so that we let people know when we're going to have the community meetings.
Okay,
And so this should be
so
disseminated.
next week.
We're live streaming this too, Tim, tonight. This is being live streamed.
Yeah,
But so,
well,
I mean, so if somebody wants to,
but not many people watch.
I know, but I mean, it's, the first step's there. So,
Yeah. And again, this is still October.
Right.
So we're really early in
Right.
this part of it.
Right.
And a lot of people are, their minds aren't even there yet. We're
Right.
talking about next June,
they're worried about Halloween
next July.
and
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, we are.
And then Christmas.
Right. Okay, that's our part.
Great. Any other questions?
Thank you.
If not, I guess we will, let me make sure, agenda-wise, we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the first 15 minutes, we just don't get it.
Sorry, guys.
Hey, no problem.
Life happens.
I was just thinking about all the other